Welcome, everybody, to the Office Addins Developer Community Call for October 9th. Let's go ahead and get started. So first, just a little bit about the community call. If you don't already have the invite to the community call, there's a link here at the top of the slide. And Alex, would you mind put that link in the chat?
Yeah.
So as I go along, if we come across the links, Alex will help put those in the chat window for anyone. We'll also post the slides later if you need access to any links that are in here. So the next call will be Wednesday, December 11th. We normally do the call the second Wednesday of every month. However, we're going to skip the month of November because the Ignite conference is coming up, and that tends to take the wind out of the sails of this community call. So we're just going to skip November and go to December. So this call is a chance to meet the product teams behind Office Addins, behind the APIs and the Office platform. We often have members of the product teams presenting here, so you get a chance to meet them. We'll talk about what's new, what's coming soon. We try to cover a variety of topics in each call and do at least one technical deep dive into a particular area of Office Addins. From time to time, we have customer presentations. And if you're interested in doing a customer presentation at some point in time, there's a way to reach out to us, which I'll point out at the end of this call. It's also an opportunity to do some Q&A. So as we go along, if you have questions, please feel free to post them in the chat window, and we'll answer those questions as the presenters are presenting, or at the end of each section, or maybe the end of the call. If we don't get to any questions or don't have the answers right away, we do post a blog summary of the entire call within a few days up on the Office Developer blog. And there you can find a recording of the video, the slide deck, as well as some additional resources related to the call, as well as the Q&A. So the agenda for today, for anyone who's new to Office Addins, we have a quick little overview about Office Addins development. Then we're going to talk about the Office Developer Program, which has some great resources to help you as an Office Addin developer. Then we're going to do a bit of a deep dive into Visual Studio Code and Office templates and some updates to those. Then just a quick chat about patterns and practices. We have a new dynamic DPI sample, I should say samples, that you can explore there. And then finally some Q&A. Your presenters for today. My name is David Chestnut. I am a dev writer on the Office platform team. And joining me today is Alex Jarabek, who's on the same team as me, also a dev writer. And presenting today is Michael Aldridge, Senior Program Manager, who'll be talking to you about the Office Developer Program. And Courtney Owen, who's a Senior Software Engineer, and he works very closely with the Yeoman generator for Office. So he has some updates to share in that space. So really quickly, we want to talk about the Microsoft Ignite conference. And Dana, did you want to chat to this slide a little bit more?
Hey, everyone. My name's Dana Weekon. I'm on the Office Ecosystem Marketing team. I just wanted to, for those of you who are attending Ignite, there were a couple things before, now that we're a month before the event, that I wanted to bring up. We do have a pre-day workshop that is called Building Modern Enterprise Productivity Apps on the Microsoft 365 platform. It's pre-26, so if you go into your registration, if you will be there on Sunday, or if you want to come and participate, it will have how to build productivity apps on the enterprise, including Microsoft Teams, Microsoft Graph, SharePoint, adaptive cards, and a few other things. We will also have a number of roundtable discussions that we would love you to participate in and give feedback for. We don't have the information on the individual ones. They are coming into the schedule builder as a breakout session, and I believe it's 3307, so I'll follow up with that and let you know. And then you can start adding your sessions to the schedule through the schedule builder in your registration again. There's a link here for the list of sessions and where you can find everything. And lastly, we'd love to have you come and meet us in person on the show floor at the hub, which is also the expo area. And it's just the Microsoft 365 developer platform is the name of the area. There's a whole bunch of theater sessions, some breakouts. There's a lot of really exciting things for you to participate in a number of different ways. But the main things are if you want to sign up for the pre-day, that'd be great. And also follow us on Twitter at Office Dev. We'll keep announcements updated as we get more information about the event.
All right, thank you, Dana. So moving along, we're going to do an Office Addins overview. So Alex, do you want to jump into that?
All right, thank you, David. Yeah, we like to start each call with a quick overview of Office Addins, so we're all on the same page about the modern web add-in platform for Office. So an add-in is effectively two parts. It's a web service that is accessed through your Office host, such as Outlook, Word, or Excel, and that web service is written in the web technologies like JavaScript, HTML, and CSS. The second component is a manifest file, and that file is how your Office host accesses that web service and knows how to interact with it. And this allows your add-in to be cross-platform because it's out there running on the web, and there's just a manifest file that is stored with your Office host. That host can be on a desktop, on an iPhone, on the web, and it can also be uploaded to the Office store, allowing your add-in to be shared with others. So if we go to the next slide, David. Now, what can an Office add-in do? Well, since it is a web service, it can access any web APIs, work with Azure services or functions, make calls on the Microsoft Graph, or it can interact with the Office.js library. And that's usually the focus of these calls. That Office.js library allows your add-in to interact directly with the Office host underneath it. So if you're in Excel, you can work directly with a workbook or your Outlook message and so on. So we typically deep dive into those on this call and focus on those, but we'll have peripheral topics today. So, Dave? If you're interested in getting started with Office add-ins, you can follow this link that I'll post in the chat in a little bit. You can take a 5-minute quick start and have an add-in up and running. That is AKMS Office Add-ins docs. There you can ask any questions. And if you have any questions about add-ins in general or want to learn more, go there. You can leave comments, get feedback from the product team, and help them. So head on over today and start trying out the platform. All right, back to you, David.
All right, cool. So that brings us to the Office 365 Developer Program. So I'll let Michael Aldridge take over on that subject.
Great. Good morning, everyone, or good evening, depending on your time zone. Thank you so much for attending today. What I want to do is just give a quick update on the Office 365 Developer Program. I don't think I've presented to this group in probably over a year. And in that time, we've added a ton of new capabilities and wanted to also really hear from all of you if possible. So I encourage you as I give this presentation to add any thoughts that you have in the chat window on things that are friction points that you have with Office add-ins development that you would love to see the Office 365 Developer Program provide you. And really, think of it as a virtual brainstorming session that you can be doing on things that you really wish that would make it easier for you as an add-ins developer to be able to get up and running. And it really helps us to be able to then prioritize our backlog based on user feedback from customers that we really care about, like you. So quickly, what is the Office 365 Developer Program? Well, first of all, I feel like our name needs to be changed, and I'm fighting to do that. But I haven't been successful, unfortunately. We really are the developer program that connects you to the tools, resources, and expertise to create connected solutions for Microsoft 365, not just Office 365. And we hope that we'll be able to actually rebrand this the Microsoft 365 Developer Program soon. Because we really are looking to ensure that no matter what part of the Microsoft 365 platform world you want to develop in, that we're really providing you the tools, resources, and expertise that you need. And so we really look at all the different workloads here. Obviously, Outlook and Excel and Word and PowerPoint are probably some of the ones that you folks on the phone care about the most. But we do also work heavily with Microsoft Graph and SharePoint and Microsoft Identity, obviously. So this is something where if you want, you could take a picture of this slide. For those of you that aren't already in the program, I encourage you to join. And some of the reasons why to join, if you haven't already, are that one, and I'll talk about this in more detail in a minute, but we've just upgraded the subscription from Office 365 E3 to Microsoft 365 E5. And this was started just in August. And you know, a developer subscription is important for anyone who really struggles, particularly in a large corporate environment. We've had a lot of enterprise developers tell us that they really need to have their own sandbox that they can be their admin of, so that they can play around with it and be able to prototype and test scenarios. And they really struggle a lot of times in those corporate environments to be able to have that. And so this program offers you an easy way to get your own sandbox. So that was one of the first things that customers really told us that we needed to work on, and that's what we launched back in March of 2018. And now we've upgraded that subscription just recently, as I said, to E5. And I'll talk a little bit about what's included in E5 that you don't have in E3. The other area is Dev Sandbox creation tools. And this is a new exciting area that we talked about at Build. You may have heard if you were at Build. And we actually started to deliver this just in August as well. And we allow you to actually preload sample users and data, and you can use this for Microsoft Graph or really any kind of application development where you want to have a bunch of fake users and data to play with in order to look at solutions. So as Alex was talking about, if you have an add-in where you're going to build it and talk to Graph, this is actually going to be really helpful for you. So I'll walk you through that in a minute. You already, I think, are familiar, given that you're participating in this call, with the fact that you can access Microsoft 365 experts. And that's certainly a side benefit of being in the program. And we're really working hard to give you more personalized tools, training, and documentation. When you join the program, you actually indicate what you're interested in, and we're working to actually make sure that we personalize information that's presented to you in the dashboard. And that's the dashboard is really this image that I have on the screen right now that you can see where you manage your subscription, and we've also got those new sample data packs that you can install. The other thing I want to make sure everyone is fully aware of, and I don't think people are, is that we actually have integration with Visual Studio. And we announced back at Build Visual Studio Professional support. So now both Visual Studio Pro and Enterprise subscriptions actually can be connected with the Office Developer Program. And you know, if you have one of these subscriptions, or if you're an MVP, you get one of these subscriptions as part of your MVP status. And I'll tell you why it's important, because it actually offers you even more flexibility, particularly if you want your tenant to basically be renewed automatically. So there's really two different ways to join the Office 365 developer program and get that E5 subscription with 25 users. And the first way that I think is the preferred way for most people is if you already have that Visual Studio Pro or Enterprise subscription, you can actually access it and install it and join the program through Visual Studio My Benefits. And this allows you to then have that subscription perpetually renewed. Now, why would I want perpetual renewal? Well, back in April, we kind of changed the terms of what we were doing with the dev program. It used to be that we gave you a 1-year subscription, and then you would have to basically get a new one. What we wanted to do was put in more flexibility and do a 90-day renewal. And at the same time, what we're doing is really looking for dev activity. And if you are active as a developer, then you're automatically renewed. Now, that's for every kind of what I would call the basic member of the program. So those are the developers that might not have Visual Studio Pro or Enterprise. But if you already have a Visual Studio Pro or Enterprise subscription, you don't have to worry about having that dev activity within every 90 days. You will actually automatically be renewed based on the valid subscription you have with Visual Studio. So what we do is we actually have federated. You can use your Visual Studio ID to join the program, and then we federated it so that we're actually checking that subscription timestamp to just make sure that you have a valid subscription, and we auto renew you, and you never have to worry about renewal until you actually lose that subscription or decide you're not going to renew it. And if you do, then you just smoothly and gracefully transfer to that 90-day model, but you don't lose your subscription or your membership into the program. So here's some of the benefits of the Office 365 E5 subscription. So as I said, it really helps you to create your own developer sandbox and be your own administrator. And you do get up to 25 licenses like you did with the E3 subscription. And these are exclusively for development and testing purposes. So you're not supposed to be using this for any kind of production environment. It's just primarily for prototyping and testing. And that's very clear in the terms and conditions that we have, but I just want to call that out. We do offer new value with E5 that really expands access to critical Microsoft 365 workloads and capabilities, and that's why we call it a Microsoft 365 subscription as opposed to just Office 365. Basically, you can get advanced analytics with Power BI. You could get the EMS, Enterprise Mobility and Security service for compliance and information protection. You can get the Office 365 Advanced Threat Protection and Azure Active Directory for building advanced identity and access management solutions. And you can figure out if you have E5 when you actually get your tenant, and it'll actually indicate in what we call the subscription tile, which is this visual here on the right side, and it'll actually show you whether or not what kind of subscription you have, whether it's an E5 subscription or an E3 subscription. So the other big piece of news that I wanted to make sure people are aware of are the new sample data packs, and we launched these in August. This has been one of the top requests from our developer community because everyone said they really are frustrated by the fact that sandbox configuration takes so much time. And so we're trying to reduce the friction for developers. It's part of our strategy, and we're starting with these first two sample data packs that really offer some of the basics for you in terms of being able to create 16 fictitious users, have metadata associated with them along with photos that will simulate a small corporate environment. And then we populate in the second data pack mail and events with those users. So it'll populate Outlook email conversations and calendar events for each of those 16 fictitious users. And that basically gives you a prototypical environment to be able to play with, if you will. And the first two data packs are very much focused on graph. But as I said, it's fundamental to how you could actually use it for a variety of different scenarios beyond graph. And we're excited to have more data packs coming. Particularly one of the things that we're working on right now is integration with the SharePoint PMP service. And so we'll be hopefully previewing that at Ignite. So we're giving you a heads up that if you have any interest in SharePoint as well, there will be the SharePoint sample data pack that will be demoed at Ignite. And then we won't be launching that probably until the end of this quarter or early January. Just to give you some sense of developer program momentum, we have over 180,000 members now. And as you can see, about 25,000 of those members are coming from our Visual Studio Pro and Enterprise subscriptions. And we have amazing representation from all over the world. We've got the top 10 countries really represent 72% of all of our members. So we're very excited about the international participation. And we're also excited about the kinds of developers that we have in the program. 29% of our developers are enterprise developers, 18% are system integrators, and 14% are ISVs. So all in all, we have over 61% that are essentially either enterprise SI or ISV developers. And here's some of the interests by workload. And we can definitely see that Excel and Outlook are some of the top areas of interest for our members, as well as SharePoint, Teams, and Graph. So I'm going to shift now. There's a few other slides that I have that can explain some of the other benefits if you're interested, but I'd love to shift and just see if you have any thoughts on things that you would like to see in the developer program. I think that would be really awesome to hear because particularly for the Addins audience, I think it's an area where, frankly, I'd love to see us improve what we can offer you in terms of reducing friction. And making it easier for you to create applications and add-ins.
If I may ask a question, is there a way for folks to get in touch after the call, like an email or something?
Sure, absolutely. If you want, my email is mikeald@microsoft.com, and please don't hesitate to contact me on things that you would like to see. We also have a user voice area that we point to, and what I can do is I can dig that up and send that in the chat window before the end of this call.
Cool. And we can put your email in the blog post as well in case anyone didn't quite get that.
Okay. So you might want to skip ahead to the next section.
Next up is Courtney.
There we go. That's me. Hi, I'm Courtney Owen. I'm a engineer on the OPX team working on DevX features. So today I'm going to talk a little bit about debugging strategies for add-ins that are generated via YoOffice and some of the YoOffice feature updates that we've done recently. I'm not really sure to what extent you all are familiar with YoOffice, but here's YoOffice. It's a command line driven tool for generating add-in projects. And we can just walk through quickly here. We'll create a basic add-in task pane project. You can select whether it's going to be TypeScript or JavaScript. We'll just take the default JavaScript and we'll just call it My Office Add-in, the default. Then you can select the host you want it to work for. And we'll select the default again, Excel, and now it's going to create the add-in and it's going to install all the packages. And then after you've done that, you can go and use your add-in right away just by running npm run start. And I can show you how that works. Now, some of the big things that we've done in YoOffice recently is YoOffice used to be one large monolithic project that contained all the project templates. And whenever we needed to make an update to a particular template, we had to publish a whole new version of YoOffice and then hope that people updated that version of YoOffice to get those updates. So that's obviously not a great strategy. So what we did over the last quarter, and it actually straddled 2 quarters, is we moved all the project templates out into their own repos. And these are publicly available. And we're able to surgically update templates as we need to. And users don't have to update their version of YoOffice to get those updates. It's sort of silently done in the background. So that's been a really great advancement we've had and has really allowed us to keep up, I think, better with issues that are opened and to get fixes out ASAP for customers. So now I'm just going to show you that project that was generated, My Office Add-in, and we'll just do npm start. And what this will do is this will register the add-in in Excel. It will load up Excel. Are you seeing everything? And it will start the dev server. One of the things that we've added, well, I'd say not too recently, several months ago, is that we automatically register the dev certs as part of starting up the dev server. Used to be, if you recall, looking back in our old tutorials, we had people manually register the dev certs that the dev server was using. And I think that was error prone and led to a lot of confusion. So we've taken that out of the equation. So now I just go show task pane. And this is our code sample, and it does something really exciting by setting the A1 cell to yellow. So that's kind of an easy way to get an add-in set up and running. And you can choose whichever host you want. I should caution that the side loading or the automatic registration of the add-in is only currently supported in Excel, PowerPoint, and Word. And we are working towards soon getting it working in Outlook as well. So I'm going to go ahead and close this, and I'm going to stop the dev server. And then I'm going to show you some of the debugging stuff that we have. And I might as well work in that same project. So I'll open this, and actually, I take that back because I have this demo set up in another project that I want to use. So of course, once you have your add-in, you'd like a way to be able to debug it. And so when you create an add-in via Yo Office, we have a couple of debugging strategies that you can use. So the first one I'm going to show you is Office Online Edge. And what this is going to do is this is going to prompt you for a URL where you have a document saved in OneDrive. It's going to open that document in OneDrive, and then you can set breakpoints in your code and actually execute the task pane add-in in OneDrive, and it'll hit your breakpoints within VS Code. So we'll go here. See, it's prompting me for a link. Now it's going to start the dev server again, and it's going to open up the browser with that link, and that particular workbook it's opening already has an add-in registered to it. Should see the task pane add-in link show up here soon. There we go. Show task pane. And so we've got the same task pane setup that we just showed in the desktop. And now I have a breakpoint set here in the add-in source code. And when we run this here, we hit this breakpoint. And so this is a way that you can debug your code, and you can just step through it. Let me do FN. There we go. And then you can even make changes and have those show up right away. So we'll have this set to blue. We'll save this. That did not get picked up. All right, so this worked in, the live reload worked last night when I was trying this. I'm not sure the problem I'm running into. So that's one debugging strategy that you can do. Let's go ahead and kill the dev server here. Okay, the other one that you can do is when debugging the desktop add-in using Edge Dev Tools. Some of the other things that I want to show you here is that we've incorporated linting and prettier into the project templates. So if I go in to my code here and I add in some code that's potentially problematic, such as having code after a return statement, which will build if you don't have the linting in place. It's something that you want to catch, though. And then we also have prettier integrated now. So it will clean up your code, and it will let you know that you have formatting problems. So we'll just move this over a bit, and then we'll add some extra spaces over here and save this. And now we're going to run npm lint. Okay, so it found some errors here. It shows that there's some spaces here that should be removed. It also shows unreachable code. Okay, then we can do npm run lint fix. And what lint fix will do is it will run prettier to clean up your code, or issues that like the non-reachable code, it won't fix those up, but it will continue to tell you that that's an issue, so you can address it. There we go. And you see that code gets popped back into place. And if we go here, it still says unreachable code is an issue. It doesn't fix that up because it's not something we want to really go clobbering people's code when we don't know exactly what their intentions are. So you would have to, we'll just comment that out and run lint fix again, and that should no longer appear as an issue. So this has been integrated into our project templates at this point in time. We still need to merge the master branch to our YoOffice branch, at which point in time this linting and prettier feature ad will be available to all of you when you run YoOffice. I would say that's going to happen in the next week or so. It's all done. It's just a matter of doing the merges. Okay, so let's see what I have next on my agenda here. Okay, another thing that I want to show you is some UI testing that we've added. Now, this UI testing is something that we've integrated into our repos. When you generate a project via YoOffice, we strip out our test code. And we do that largely because we aren't at the state yet where we feel it's sort of like customer ready. But why I wanted to show it to you today is that you can go into the repo and look at our test code and perhaps get ideas for writing tests for your own add-ins. And so if we don't run into any more annoying technical glitches, what I'm going to do here is run debug test. And what this is going to do is it's going to launch an add-in in Excel, and it's going to open the task pane. It's going to run the Office.js code, get the values that are set in the cell, send that value back to our Mocha test, which is going to compare it to an expected value. It's going to do the same thing with Word. And we have this test infrastructure integrated into our CI pipelines such that whenever we make check-ins into any of our YoOffice project template repos, these tests run, and they run on both Windows and Mac. And so we find them to be generally pretty reliable. Like I say, it's maybe not to the point now where we're confident that we should ship this as part of a YoOffice generated project template. But if you want to look at the infrastructure that we use, you could perhaps use it yourself. It takes advantage of a couple of publicly available packages we created called Office Add-in Test Server and Office Add-in Test Helper. And then Mocha, of course, you probably are all familiar with. So we'll do debug test here. And it seems like the problem we had previously was the dev server not starting. So hopefully that doesn't happen again. So you see it's opening the task pane. And then it's setting a value. And in fact, it's using that code that we modified before. And then it sends it back to the test server. The test server, in this case, it might fail because I changed the code to blue when I think the test server was expecting yellow. So you'll see a failure in the results. And that's cool. That's actually, shows you that the test is working to do what it should. And then it's doing the same thing with Word here. And then the test is done, and see, we got to our failure here that we expected. And that tells us, hey, we need to fix our source code there. So this has been a pretty nice addition that we've made over, I'd say, the last quarter and a half, and has really helped us with our velocity in testing, because before it was a manual process, and it was sort of an intermittent process. We would say to ourselves, you know what, we should probably test these things. It's also made it just more systematic. The final thing that I want to talk about today is something that you might perhaps want to integrate into your own projects we've integrated this into Yo Office recently, and it's our Office add-in usage data package. And basically, it's a telemetry package that allows you to send telemetry about your add-in project to App Insights. And it's quite easy to use, and all you need to do is have an App Insights instance. So if you go into Azure, you can just create an App Insights resource. I'm not going to walk through that process, but it's very straightforward. Am I pressed for time?
No.
Oh, okay. And so this is the Yo Office App Insights instance we have. And so what we do is when people generate projects, we will, first of all, we let them know very explicitly now that we are going to collect telemetry data. And if they aren't up for that, they can turn off telemetry. And the type of telemetry data that we're collecting is very much in our, is very much complying to our privacy guidelines. There's no PII in there. It's just basically the project types that people are creating, whether they're creating Angular, whether they're creating React, TypeScript versus JavaScript. And we also collect exception data, which of course is quite useful to us in fixing issues. This similarly might be useful to you and your add-ins in detecting issues before a customer posts an issue on GitHub. And so we've also done work to strip out all PII information from exceptions, such as folder locations. It might contain usernames, anything like that. So I'm just going to show you some quick exception data that we've got for Yo Office here.
Hey, Courtney, can I ask a question? If I want to take advantage of all these new capabilities in Yo Office, what's the process I need to go through to get that? Should I blow away what I've already had in Yo Office and start all over again with a new installation to get the new model? Or if I have the existing model, can I take advantage of these new pluggable templates that you have?
Yeah, if you have a fairly recent version of Yo Office, by recent I mean in the last 6 to 8 months, you should be okay. And you should be able to pull in these latest repo updates. If you have one that's a bit older, it's still using that monolithic Yo Office that has the kind of stale baked-in templates. So definitely recommend, if you haven't done so recently, to update your version of Yo Office. And if you haven't updated your version of Yo Office in a long time, you probably have a lot of outdated packages in general, and maybe a lot of security issues that you might not know about. What I'll show you here is some exceptions data. And we also have some cool alerting mechanisms set up here that you could set up yourself, that if you get a certain number of exceptions during a given time frame, you'll get email that tells you, hey, you've got a problem here. We'll go into exceptions here, and we'll run this. And it says we're getting data. And it could be we haven't had any exceptions in the past 24 hours, but I seem to recall that there's a couple of issues that we need to look into. So, as I said, I cannot, there we go. And there's our exceptions data. And this will give you detailed information about where a particular issue is occurring in your code. If you want to use this in your own projects, there's a package called Office Add-in Usage Data that you can grab on NPM, integrate it into your project, and all that it requires is an App Insights ID. When you create the Office Add-in Usage Data object. And the App ID, if and when this loads, is easily available in your overview here. A subscription ID is called, actually. So you just grab that and you put it in to your Office Add-in Usage Data object, and then you can send any sort of exception information you want, in addition to sort of user information that you want. Okay, that's all I have. And if you have any questions, you can follow up with me individually. Thanks.
Bernie, would you be willing to post your email or contact information in the chat? There's some people who want to follow up with you. Can you field a couple of questions?
Sure.
One, someone asked if you can link to the UI test code that was shown. Is that publicly available?
It's in the repos. Yeah, it's publicly available in the repos. So let me just show you here. If you go into like Office add-in task pane, for example, and this is true of all the project templates. We have Office add-in task pane, Office add-in task pane Angular, Office add-in task pane React, and then we have the JS versions of each of those, in addition to Excel custom functions. And in those, there's a test folder here. And UI test is the Mocha test. And then the source code basically mirrors the source code for the task pane. And it just has some additional stuff that includes our test helpers in it. We don't want to put those test helpers in the standard source code just because I don't think people want to have that in their regular add-ins. But hopefully it's something that you can easily figure out. If you have questions about it, let me know. And as I mentioned, we run these on Mac and Windows right now. The one thing that I personally am cautious about putting this in our projects that are generated by your office is the way that we have to close down the apps, particularly on Mac, is we have to kill the process. And there's no graceful way to close down the application via Office.js. Excel has an Office.js close workbook, but it doesn't close the actual app. And so what we do is we kill the process, and if you've ever seen when you kill a process on Mac, it'll bring up a dialog that says, "We noticed your process died. Would you like to submit an error report?" Which can cause interruptions in subsequent runs. We've dealt with that internally here by suppressing that dialog on our Mac VMs that we use for testing, but it's not something that you're probably easily going to be able to figure out yourself. I can tell you how to do it, but it requires some manual work. So that's sort of one of the reasons I'm somewhat wary about fully integrating this into a project generated via your office.
Talk about dynamic DPI samples. I should have said dynamic DPI. DDPI isn't really an acronym.
We can make it one.
We can always make it.
Sounds like it is.
Way back, I think it was in January, we put this article out on Docs about how to handle high DPI and DPI scaling in your Office solution. And for the most part, a lot of this article applies to sort of the mature technologies that have been around a long time, like ActiveX and VSTO custom task panes and things like that. The basic scenario is, like, for a long time, most monitors were pretty much 96 dots per inch for a DPI. But as higher resolution monitors have been coming out, like 4K monitors, they have much higher DPI resolutions. And you can end up in a scenario where, say, Excel is started and running on one monitor and somebody has a 2-monitor setup, and they can drag Excel over to that other monitor, and it turns out it's a different DPI. Maybe it's a 4K monitor. So Excel would have to, or any application really would have to redraw itself to the correct proportions. Otherwise, you can end up with things drawing in the wrong spots. You can get font sizes that look weird. So really, a lot of this happens at the Windows level. So Windows has these DPI awareness modes. And I'll just briefly go with, I don't want to go through the whole article, but because I want to get to showing the samples. But basically, there's DPI unaware, which means that application has no awareness of DPI ever changing. And in that case, Windows will just, if you put it onto another monitor, it'll just bitmap stretch it to make it look okay. And that works all right, but things don't look great because you'll get a little bit of blurriness from the stretching effect. So really, you'd want to go into your application and make it at least system DPI aware. And in that case, it'll have the correct DPI on the monitor it starts on, so it looks good, say, on a 4K monitor. But then if you dragged it to another monitor that's a different DPI, Windows again bitmap stretches it because it's that application is saying, hey, I don't respond to DPI changes. I'm just always the same. Then we get to per monitor DPI aware, which means based on the monitor it gets put on, it's going to adjust to the DPI. And in this case, Windows will send it DPI notifications saying, hey, you're on a new DPI now, so you need to redry yourself. And that application will be able to respond to it. And this is how Excel and the other Office applications run, that they're using per monitor DPI aware mode. Now the notifications are sent to the top level window, which say would be Excel, but the notifications do not get sent to the child windows, which would be things like your ActiveX controls. So this is where the samples start to come in with code about like, well, how do you get those notifications and work with them? There's an additional level of per monitor V2, and that will, in that case, Windows will send notifications to child windows, but Office isn't using that. So there's a lot of info in here about how to do this, and there's also some code samples. These were all put together by Sean McDowell, one of the software engineers on the team, and I worked with him way back. I said, hey, why don't we put these software samples out there as buildable, runnable code so that people could, because there's quite a bit to it. It gets a bit lengthy in this article, so it might be easier sometimes if you just open Visual Studio and just work with these. So he helped put together these samples that are out on our PNP Office Addins repo. So we'll put a link to this in the after the call. We basically go down the samples, dynamic DPI folder, and there's a whole bunch of folders here with various types of projects. So like there's a COM add-in that's C++, there's ActiveX, there's an MFC application, there's a bunch of VSTO ones. These are all Visual Studio tools for Office with custom task panes. And those will show, Excel, Outlook, PowerPoint. And the best way to work with these is if you go down into the README and say you wanted to work with this COM add-in C++ sample, these all kind of have the same pattern to them. It's like, okay, here's how you can run it. There's instructions to get to the solution file and build it. And then at the end it says, okay, where's the interesting bits about DPI? And so in this case, it says that's in the ATL control file. VSTO is a shared add-in, so you open up a solution project, which includes all these other projects for Excel, Outlook, PowerPoint, and you can pick which one you want to run. Here's how to build it. And then this one actually has an example of a context block, which is one of the things talked about in the article, as well as a DPI helper file. And this just basically for each of these repeats. So I don't think, we don't have like every single type of example you might have in these technologies. So if there's something you're interested in, you can always, I would say, first of all, like if this is something you're working with and you need to handle DPI, take a look at this. And if there's something you're looking for that you don't have, you can submit an issue and let us know, and we can work on it. And this is a community-driven repo. So, if you look at the code and you think you have a better way of doing it, or you see what opportunities to improve stuff, please submit a PR and let us know, and we'll incorporate that. So basically, I just wanted to point out that these samples are out there for you if you need them for working with DPI. And now I'm going to switch back. Well, actually, I wanted to check real quick. Were there any questions?
Real quick, yeah. Someone asked, is there a DPI sample for WPF forms?
Yes. For WPF forms, there is a sample in VSTO of a WPF control embedded in a form. I hope that's what they're looking for. So if you open up this solution project, the shared solution for VSTO, one of the forms that's in there includes WPF on it, and it shows how to work with that.
There also had a question if you have one for a COM add-in. I think there is a COM add-in.
I think says, well, there's this one. There's a C++ COM add-in. So hopefully that's the example they need.
Just know if you don't have the example you need, and leave comments in this GitHub repo. We monitor this actively, and we'll add more patterns and practices as the community needs them.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so if you want to engage with us, like say you want to present during an upcoming call, there's a forum you can go to and let us know about what it is you're interested in presenting on. This is a great way to share good information with fellow developers around the Office Addins. There's a link there to the Office Addins Engage, aka link. You can also use this forum to provide feedback about the docs. If you have suggestions on the docs or questions, then let us know. When you fill that out, and it'll come our way, and then we'll reach out to you and set something up for a presentation if that's what you're interested in. real quick on Q&A, we had a couple of questions come in. One was on when the on-send feature would be available for everybody out there. There's a lot of interest in the on-send feature for Outlook. So I checked in with the product team, and right now, that feature is available on prod and it's in preview. We don't have a specific date as of yet. The earliest timeline they're looking at is maybe in the first quarter of next year, but unfortunately, I can't give anything more specific than that. It's still pretty vague. So we also had another question come in. Unfortunately, I got it kind of late, but it was about using Angular with two-way binding in Office add-ins and if that's supported. So I reached out to the team because I don't know the answer, but we will put that answer in the blog that will come out in just a couple of days. So I'll get that tracked down and out there. So is there anything else on Q&A?
I mean, there's a few more we can, since we're out of time, we can post it on the blog. Yeah, I've been recording all the questions that came in, so if we didn't get to it in the chat, we will follow up in that blog.
Yeah. So here's some links to developer resources if you want to learn more or if you want to engage with us with questions or issues you find. And then I'm just going to say we're reaching the end of the call, so I'll say thank you. The recording will be out there soon on the Office Dev YouTube channel. Next call again will be in December 11th. If you have any questions, you can go to the forum there and submit questions for the next call. And again, if you need to add the calendar invite, there's a link there for that. And so I will just say thank you for participating in today's call, and we will see you on the next call. Thank you.